Alright, I just finished the associated event and there is no character story to be found whatsoever. Have fun reading the lore, I guess. Though I'm going to be honest, I completely forgot what the Lunar New Year characters were up to. Shui Yu's Trustmaster reward is a materia that raises your unit's magic and spirit. The total boost is actually underwhelming for a Neovision unit's Trustmaster reward, though I guess they're putting all their stock in the mix of buffs and 30% fire and water elemental resistance. It's pretty good if you think about it that way, though it's definitely better suited for specific units. Her Super Trustmaster reward is a two-handed rod with a high level of magic and a strong boost to spirit. It has a passive that boosts your unit's equipment magic and spirit by 50% if they're holding a single weapon, and since this is two-handed anyways, you'll fulfill that condition pretty easily. The spirit boost will really come into play on her Brave Shift, but due to its relatively low level, it's not much of a boon. But before that, active abilities. Shui Yu is a water magic damage dealer, with attacks that partially ignores the enemy's spirit. Lotus Retribution is a brave ability that can inflict a 120% water imperil, and increases Shui Yu's water damage by 25%. Rippling Pond is a Chaos Wave Awaken attack that increases your team's limit burst gauges by a small amount with each use, and boosts Shui Yu's magic and spirit by 250%. Cleansing Lake is a Bolting Strike attack that cures any breaks on your team. Merciless Waterfall is a Chaos Wave Awaken Brave ability that raises Shui Yu's water resistance by 120%. Blooming Lianhua Arts raises Shui Yu's magic and spirit by 300%, fills her limit burst gauge and enables a quadruple cast, alongside boosting the rest of your team's magic and spirit by 200, 250, or 300%. You have a 20% chance to get the optimal boost, while the other two have equal rates at 40%. Seasonal Drought removes all buffs from an enemy and decreases all of their elemental resistance by 110%. Anhua Miracle can be used once per battle. It boosts Shui Yu's magic by 300%, raises your team's water resistance by 120%, and then hits the enemy with a Chaos Wave Awakened attack. Onto her passives. She's a magic damage dealer that prefers to hold a single rod. She doesn't have any innate killers, though she does have a small boost to her limit burst damage and fill rate. She has an incredible amount of water resistance, and resistance to all status elements with the exception of Zombie. With her Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, she'll gain more stats, nullify Stop and Charm, and gains Guts buff. Finally, every turn she'll heal your team and boost their defense and spirit by 150%, which is low, but you have to agree that it's better than nothing. Let's look at her limit burst. It deals water magic damage that partially ignores the enemy's spirit, and raises your team's water resistance by 120%. All things considered, it's just plain decent. Time to change forms. Her Brave Shift's available at turn 2. It doesn't have a turn duration, though it does have a 2-turn cooldown. Let's look at her active abilities. She still deals water magic damage, though now it scales off her spirit stat. Lotus Rebirth is a Chaos Wave Awakened attack that revives any KO'd allies and cures Stop and Charm for your team. The effect's pretty insane, as it rolls team utility and offensive capability into one ability, though it's offset by fairly low damage modifiers. Lianhua Restoration heals your team and grants them an MP regen. Head Wall is a brave ability that can grant the team a 55% general mitigation buff, heals them, and casts a sturdy barrier on the next turn. Why the wait? I don't really know, but there's probably some kind of character lore here. Oh wait, there isn't any. River of Benevolence fills your team's MP gauge and grants Shui Yu a strong HP barrier. Healing Stream is an ability that heals your team to varying degrees. I can just imagine the developers going, the players' minds will be torn in two. Revitalizing Waters grants your teams a re-raise and cures all status ailments. Lianhua Salvation raises Shui Yu's spirit by 300%, grants your team a strong HP barrier, increases their resistance to Stop and Charm, and then hits the enemy with a powerful Water Chaos Wave Awakened ability with damage that scales off her spirit. She doesn't have a quadruple cast in this form, partly because a lot of her abilities are dedicated to support. Onto her passives. She's gained a Magic Demon Killer buff, as well as a stronger boost to her limit burst damage. Most of her passives have been thrown around to raise her spirit stat, though building her should remain the same, just with a greater focus on spirit. Her locked passive now lowers her chance of being targeted, which, in my opinion, is a complete downgrade from a Guts buff. Her passive resistances are the same, and as useful as ever. Let's look at her limit burst. It preemptively raises her limit burst damage by 250%, then deals massive water magic damage that scales off her spirit stat. Now to rank her brave abilities. I recommend raising Lotus Retribution to raise her water damage and lower the enemy's water resistance more, Head Wall to raise its support buffs if necessary, and Merciless Waterfall to deal more damage. Time to make a damage rotation. I'll be using her as a magic damage dealer. Her Brave Shift's passives aren't really optimized to deal damage, so raising her spirit to a better degree than her magic relies on a heavy amount of Super Trustmaster rewards. Anyways, on turn 1, cast Blooming Lianhua Arts, Lotus Retribution, and Merciless Waterfall. Then, for the next 4 turns, quadruple cast Merciless Waterfall. The name's quite fitting, isn't it? Make sure to top off your best turn with Anhua Miracle, since it has the highest damage modifier. Once turn 6 comes around, start the rotation again. If you're feeling up to it, you can cap a chain with her Limit Burst and her Brave Shift whenever you'd like. So how good is Shui Yu? In terms of damage, she beats out Ibarra but faces heavy competition from Dark Fina and So. Activate her Brave Shift and she'll become a Spirit damage dealer, and while she has the innate bulkiness that comes from a boosted Spirit stat, the developers have also realized just how ridiculous a bulky damage dealer can be. So her Spirit growth has been hindered to compensate for this heavy advantage. And while this does sound nice and balanced, this just gives us a fairly underwhelming Neovision Spirit damage dealer. However, if we end up getting better Spirit-oriented equipment in the future, this is a problem that can easily be fixed. Nevertheless, her regular magic damage and her support abilities are significant enough to fully warrant the Neovision label at this time. With a buff removal, full 110% Elemental Impero, curing breaks, status ailments, stop, charm, reviving allies, granting a re-raise, healing, general mitigation, HP barriers, and stop and charm resistance, Shui Yu is a powerful magic damage dealer with the support abilities to match any dedicated healer. Granted, she's also locked into water magic damage, so she's not too flexible. Still, you can choose to either hone in on her magic damage or dance around to support. Her damage output might be a bit limited, but give her the right equipment and you'll find an excellent unit that lacks any defining character traits. Seriously, you couldn't even bother giving us a storyline?